Hello everyone! We're so happy to see you again on our channel today. Today, we continue following the emotional journey of Ly Hoai Ca and Officer Hung, two strong souls who have overcome countless challenges together. But this time, a new chapter begins, the difficult healing journey of little Tony, Hoai Ca's beloved son. A journey not only filled with tears, but also overflowing with love, faith, and determination. Every small step Tony takes carries the immense hope of his parents, the hope that one day, he will be able to speak, laugh, and run like any other child. So, how did this journey begin? What did Hung and Hoai Ca have to endure to keep their faith and love alive for their son? Stay with us to witness this heartfelt story. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to send your love and strength to Hoai Ca and Hung's little family. The morning drifted gently through the small rented room in the heart of the city. The quiet was so deep that one could hear the steady ticking of the clock on the old, faded wall. Thin rays of sunlight slipped through the window, softly touching the worn tiles, casting faint shimmering patterns on the peeling paint. On the floor, little Tony sat playing with a few old plastic toys, treasures that his mother had carefully cleaned and kept like precious gems. His tiny fingers fumbled clumsily as he gripped each toy, his dark eyes following every movement with innocent focus and curiosity. Hoai Ca leaned against the edge of the bed, quietly watching her son. Her gaze was filled with love, yet behind it lingered a layer of exhaustion, weary from long hospital trips, sleepless nights of worry, and the quiet fear that never truly left a mother's heart. She gently ran her thin, warm hand through her son's soft hair, as if that simple touch could pass on all the faith and endless love she carried within. Beside her, Hung was carefully preparing things for Tony's first day at therapy. He folded a tiny shirt neatly into a small bag, added a box of crayons and a notebook, one he and Hoai Ca had stayed up late writing in, leaving a few words of hope for the teacher. Every movement of his was slow and deliberate, as if afraid to disturb the peace, or perhaps wishing to hold on to this fleeting moment of calm before the day began. It had been days since the three of them left their small home in the countryside, a place of green banana groves, fresh vegetable beds, and the crowing of roosters at dawn. That modest home had carried countless memories. It was where their love began, where their hopes were born, and where many nights were soaked in tears. Now, they had left it all behind, coming to the restless heart of the city, where the hum of engines never ceased, to start a new chapter for Tony, the journey of learning to speak. A journey not only of faith, but also of patience. A path not lined with roses, but paved with small efforts, beads of sweat, and silent tears. In that tiny room, among the unfamiliar streets, there was only Tony's soft laughter, Hoai Ca's weary breath, and Hung's quiet gaze, three gentle heartbeats blending into one, lighting up a new day filled with hope. That day, the city was loud and bustling. The sounds of endless traffic, honking horns, and chatter wove together into a chaotic symphony the three of them still weren't used to. Amid the crowded streets, little Tony's small hand hesitated, then gripped his mother's tightly. His wide eyes were filled with wonder as he gazed up at the tall buildings, the packed roads, and the glowing billboards that lit up every corner. Hoai Ca bent down and gave his hand a gentle squeeze, her soft smile seeming to say, "Mom's here, don't be afraid." The midday sunlight touched Tony's chubby cheeks, making him look even more innocent and pure, a child seeing the big city for the very first time. Each step he took was unsure, but his curious eyes began to sparkle when he noticed the park across the street, with its tall slide and shiny swings glinting in the wind. For the first time in his life, Tony saw a world so bright and colorful. He stood still for a long while, eyes wide with a mix of excitement and fear. His little hand clung tightly to his mother's shirt, unwilling to let go. Hung stepped closer, crouching down so his eyes met Tony's. His voice was warm, calm, like a gentle breeze. "Come here, son. Mom and Dad are right here. It's okay." Tony looked at his father, then at his mother. The wind passed softly between them, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and the laughter of other children somewhere nearby. He gave a tiny nod. His small hands trembled as he reached out and grabbed the edge of the slide. The first step was slow and hesitant, but when he slid down, the wind brushed across his cheeks and a bright, carefree laugh burst out of him. That sound, so pure and joyful, made both Hoài Ca and Hung freeze in place. They looked at each other, eyes glistening, lips curving into gentle smiles. In that moment, all the exhaustion, the worry, the weight of sleepless nights seemed to melt away. Tony's laughter echoed through the lively park, carried on the wind, washing away every fear that had once haunted their hearts. Hung reached for his wife's hand, rough and calloused, yet so warm, as if silently reminding her, "We're on the right path." But deep within their eyes lingered an unspoken worry, because they both knew this happiness was just the first small step in a long road ahead, where the journey of healing for Tony was only beginning. The therapy room door closed softly with a faint click, a small, dry sound that, to Hoài Ca and Hung, felt like an invisible wall rising between them and their son. Inside, Tony's very first session had just begun. For a few seconds, the air was still. Then came the sound, his cry, trembling, broken, and filled with fear. Outside, Hoài Ca stood frozen, her hand unconsciously clutching the edge of her shirt. Her eyes fixed on the closed door, turning red with worry. Each sob that reached her ears cut deeper into her heart, her lips quivering as she bit down to stifle her own cries. Tears she could no longer hold back streamed down her cheeks, falling onto her tightly clasped hands. Beside her, Hung stayed silent. Through the small window on the door, he could see his son struggling, reaching out his little hands as if searching for his mother. His throat tightened, but he drew in a deep breath and placed his rough, warm hand on his wife's trembling shoulder. His voice was low and steady, though heavy with emotion. "He needs to learn to be strong, love. We have to let him get used to it. We have to believe in him." Hoài Ca nodded faintly, though her tears still wouldn't stop. She knew he was right, but what mother could stand still when her child cried and she couldn't hold him close? Every passing minute in that narrow hallway felt like an hour. The sound of Tony's crying gradually faded, until there was only the faint ticking of the clock, echoing like the quickened beat of her heart. After a while, the teacher stepped out, speaking softly to them. Her voice was calm, gentle, a tone meant to soothe two anxious parents on the edge of breaking. "The first sessions are always like this. Tony just needs a little more time. In about 10 days, once he feels comfortable with the environment, with me, and with the other kids, we can start leaving him for the full day." Hearing that, Hoài Ca lowered her head. She didn't speak, just pressed her lips together and gave a small nod. Inside her, thoughts swirled endlessly, fear, worry, hope, and fear again. But beneath it all, a fragile light began to grow. That if they just held on a little longer, if they just believed a little more, then one day soon, Tony would smile, would speak, and would finally call out the two words they longed to hear: Mom. Dad. The following days passed slowly, as if time itself in the city had softened, pausing to watch the quiet journey of this small family of three. Each morning, Hung rose before dawn, while the mist still lingered outside. He would slip out to buy breakfast, then return to tidy their tiny rented room, a space just big enough for one bed and a low wooden table. Everything was simple, yet clean and orderly, the way he and Hoài Ca tried to keep life steady, even in its hardships, preserving what little peace they could. Every morning, after preparing their things, the two of them would walk Tony to his therapy class. The little boy was beginning to adjust. He no longer cried as he had in those first few days, though sometimes his eyes still searched for his mother with a shy, uncertain look. Hung would give a small, reassuring nod, while Hoài Ca smiled, quietly tucking her worries deep inside. By noon, the three would gather again over simple lunchboxes bought from a small eatery at the end of the alley. A bit of fried egg, boiled vegetables, a few slices of braised meat, a modest meal, but warm and comforting. The fan hummed steadily, pushing the summer heat through the old window slats. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtain, scattering soft golden patterns across the tiled floor. After eating, Tony would nap peacefully on the small bed. His face relaxed, breathing slow and steady, lips slightly parted as if dreaming a sweet dream. Watching him sleep, Hoài Ca gently brushed back his soft hair. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were filled with love. As long as he's healthy, I can bear anything. Hung sat beside her, quietly gathering the dishes. He turned to his wife, a gentle smile spreading across his suntanned face. Stay strong, he said softly but firmly. I'll take care of both of you. It was a simple sentence, but to Hoài Ca, it was a promise, one that held her together. The little room once again fell into silence, filled only with the whir of the fan and the soft breathing of Tony, a fragile kind of peace, yet enough to warm an entire day. After a few days, everything began to feel a little easier. Tony no longer clung to his mother at the classroom door, nor burst into tears as before. He was less afraid now, his eyes shone brighter, and sometimes, he even smiled when the teacher held up his favorite toy. The sounds in the room were no longer sobs and sniffles, but soft laughter and the shy, clumsy babbling of children learning to speak, Tony among them. From outside the glass window, Hoài Ca stood still, watching her son. She saw his tiny hands rise to clap along with the teacher, his bright eyes following each slow, careful sound being formed. His lips moved no words yet, but there was effort, pure and determined. She could feel every small bit of progress in her heart, and it trembled with emotion. That afternoon, when they came to pick him up, Tony's smile was radiant, his cheeks glowing pink in the sunlight. Hung and Hoài Ca couldn't hide their joy. Their eyes met for a brief, wordless moment, filled with quiet happiness. Just seeing him smile was enough to wash away all their exhaustion. On the walk home, Hung spoke softly, his voice deep but warm. How about we let him stay for afternoon sessions too? He might improve faster. It'll be tougher, but I think it's worth it. Hoài Ca turned to him, a gentle smile lighting her suntanned face. We've come this far, we have to give it our all. As long as he can speak soon, call us Mom and Dad. I don't mind any hardship. The two of them sat beneath the center's awning as the last rays of sunlight tilted down, bathing their faces in a soft golden glow. Children's laughter echoed through the yard, blending with the whisper of the wind, a calm, peaceful sound. They sat in silence for a long time, simply watching first each other, then the small figure ahead of them. Tony walked slowly across the yard, a plastic ball in his hand, a quiet smile on his lips. The sunset spread over everything, over their tired but gentle faces, over Tony's small, brave figure, and over the fragile yet growing light of hope inside two steadfast hearts. In their eyes, though touched by fatigue after a long day, there still burned a quiet, unwavering faith, the kind only parents can truly understand. Late afternoon. The last rays of sunlight slanted through the small window, slipping past the worn curtain and painting the cracked wall in a soft golden hue, warm and tender, tinged with quiet melancholy. The little rented room was silent except for the low hum of the fan, its rhythmic turning sounding like the calm breathing of a long day slowly coming to an end. The scent of freshly cooked rice mingled with the aroma of braised fish, boiled vegetables, and diluted fish sauce, filling the narrow space with a comforting sense of home. The three of them, Hung, Hoài Ca, and Tony, sat around a small meal laid out on an old wooden table. The yellow light above cast a glow on Hoài Ca's slender hands as she gently placed food into her son's bowl. Tony sat between them, holding a small spoon, glancing up at his parents as he ate, his dark eyes sparkling like tiny stars. No one said much. Only small nods, quiet glances, and soft smiles, enough to understand each other without words. It was a simple meal, nothing fancy, yet warm and complete, not in material comfort, but in love. After a while, with the fan still spinning steadily, Hoài Ca spoke softly, her voice low and even more like a quiet thought escaping into the calm air. I bought 2 bunches of bananas from that old lady near our land the other day, but we haven't gone back yet. I'm afraid they'll ripen too much. Such a waste. It was an ordinary sentence, yet the air in the room seemed to grow still. Hung looked at her silently, and she lowered her gaze. In her eyes flickered a gentle homesickness, light but deep. Perhaps, in that brief moment, she was picturing their little garden back home, the red earth, the breeze rustling through the banana trees, the sound of roosters echoing through the smoke of the cooking fire. Maybe she was imagining how the sunset now must be painting the banana leaves and old tiled roofs in that same golden hue, the yard of the kind old woman she spoke of, whose name always carried warmth and respect in her tone. Her voice trembled slightly, colored with longing and love. Hearing her, Hung set his chopsticks down and lifted his head. He smiled, a slow, gentle smile, the kind he always wore when facing life's quiet burdens. His voice was low but firm, carrying quiet strength. A promise is a promise. I'll go back and harvest them for you. The old lady might be waiting. Such simple words, yet they carried so much tenderness. Hoai Ca looked at him, and her heart warmed. In the soft orange glow of dusk, Hung's face became clearer, sun-darkened skin, tired eyes from sleepless nights, but behind them a deep care and quiet devotion. He didn't speak grandly or make big promises, yet everything he did, every gesture, every word, was full of sincerity. She lowered her head slightly, a faint smile curving on her lips, fragile, but full of love. Amid all the worries and fatigue, all the chaos of their days caring for Tony, she suddenly felt lighter. Because she knew, no matter how hard things got, as long as Hung was beside her, she would have the strength to keep going. The most precious thing she had wasn't only the hope that Tony was getting better, but the man who quietly loved and cared for her and their son in every small detail, every gentle look, every steady action. Outside, the daylight faded, leaving only the last streaks of sunlight across the tin rooftops. Inside, the little room was wrapped in the warmth of their evening meal, the hum of the fan, the faint scent of food drifting through the open window. And within Hoai Ca's heart spread a calm, complete peace, that rare kind of peace one feels upon realizing they are not alone, even in a vast and unfamiliar city. Night falls. The city slowly sinks into stillness after a long, noisy, and weary day. Streetlights spill their dim glow through the window, casting shifting patches of light on the old wall, like the steady rhythm of the night's breath. Inside the small rented room, everything is wrapped in a tender quiet, broken only by the gentle whir of the fan and the soft breathing of little Tony, fast asleep. Tony lay on his side, his soft hair falling across his forehead, lips slightly parted, breathing slow and even as light as the breeze drifting outside the window. In sleep, his face was peaceful and pure, angelic even, and just looking at him was enough to ease away all of Hoai Ca's exhaustion from the day. She carefully pulled the blanket higher, tucking it around his shoulders, then sat quietly watching him, afraid that if she looked away, even for a second, this fragile moment of peace might slip away. In the corner of the room, Hung was tidying up the food containers and small plastic bowls. His movements were slow, deliberate, careful not to make a sound that might wake their son. The yellow light fell across his sunburned shoulders, outlining the faint wrinkles near his eyes, traces of long days filled with worry and work. After a while, he lifted his head, his deep, calm voice breaking the silence. "The day after tomorrow, I'll have to go on a work trip, but call me if you need anything, okay? You two hang in there. I know our boy will speak soon." The words were simple, but they carried a quiet faith. A faith not only in their son, but in his wife, a husband's unspoken promise that, even from afar, he was still beside them, watching over every small step they took. Hoai Ca looked up at him. Her eyes glistened in the soft light, her lips curling into a faint, tender smile. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not out of sadness, but from gratitude, from love, from the overwhelming ache of being understood. She said nothing, just nodded gently, a silent promise of her own. Outside, the city still glowed, though its noise had faded. The traffic hum had quieted, replaced by the whisper of wind winding through narrow alleyways. The streetlight cast its pale glow through the window, illuminating the young mother's face, tired, worn, yet filled with hope. She turned back toward her son. In his sleep, Tony stirred slightly. His tiny lips moved, and a faint sound escaped, soft, unclear, fragile, yet enough to make the air in the room stand still. Hoai froze, her heart skipping a beat. And then, tears welled up and streamed down her cheeks. It was just a small sound, as delicate as a breath, but to her, it was the most beautiful sound in the world. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying not to cry out, afraid to wake him. In the dim yellow light, her thin shoulders trembled, yet a smile spread across her lips. It was an ordinary night, yet somehow it had become a miracle. The night when a young mother realized her son's journey had truly begun. It is a journey of love, faith, and patience. A journey that Hoai and Hung chose not because it was easy, but because deep in their hearts, they believed that as long as they had each other, no matter how long or rough the road ahead might be, there would always be light waiting at the end. Every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every tear, and every smile from little Tony all have become proof of the enduring power of love and unshakable faith. In this bustling city, they discovered something both simple and sacred. As long as the family stays together, there is no hardship they cannot overcome. And their journey is still continuing. In the days to come, will Tony be able to speak his first clear words? Stay tuned to find out in tomorrow's episode. And don't forget to leave a comment, a kind wish, or even a small heart to cheer on little Tony and the Hoai family.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Thì tiếp tục để đến video tiếp theo về câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng. Mọi người thân mến, thì cũng như mọi người đã biết thì Hùng và Hoài Ca thì đang cố gắng để có thể điều trị cho Quynh để cậu bé có thể phát triển bình thường giống như những em bé khác. Tuy nhiên thì hành trình này thì rất khó khăn và gian khổ. Hiện tại thì cả hai đang đưa Tony đến một cái lớp gọi là lớp trị liệu, để ở đây thì sẽ có bác sĩ cũng như là các giáo viên hướng dẫn để Tony cũng có thể là thực hiện các sinh hoạt thói quen một cách tốt hơn, và cũng như là có thể nói chuyện, giao tiếp để thể hiện mong muốn của mình. Vậy thì mọi chuyện sẽ ra sao? Hành trình điều trị của Tony sẽ như thế nào thì mời mọi người đón xem vào những video tiếp theo. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người sau.